Hi, my name is Lucinda, and I'm with the Office of Inclusive Design with ASU and I'm going to be showing you how to make your Zoom meetings accessible. So there are several principles of making an accessible Zoom meeting. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the live transcription, which is the button between breakout rooms and meeting recording. Those are two things you should always do in a Zoom meeting: is enable live transcription and record your meeting. So some of the principles of Zoom meeting accessibility are sound quality. So you want to make sure that you're holding your Zoom meeting somewhere where there aren't a lot of distractions or overstimulations or issues with hearing, and make sure that your mic is working, your sound quality is working, and there isn't a lot of background noise, so that your participants are able to hear you fully. Also make sure to mute participants who aren't speaking. So you can do this by, when you set up the meeting, automatically mute participants. You also want to make sure that your meetings are video optional. So I know that a lot of professors and a lot of us, we want to see each other, especially in this time of, not seeing people as often, but a lot of students may have anxiety. Requiring video may be anxiety inducing for some participants, so it's important to give that video optional. Additionally, students may not want to share where they are or be in a space where they can't show their video, or some computers, the video isn't working. So we want to make that equitable for everybody, and so you should allow a video optional. So again, another way to do this is, automatically have the video off when you're setting up the Zoom meeting. But additionally, you can just make sure that students know when they join the meeting. You don't have to have your video on. So I'm going to talk about some screen sharing best practices, and by doing that, I'm going to share my screen. Make sure you're always sharing sound, of course. I know this can be kind of hard to forget because it's down at the bottom. So if you're going to be sharing a video, make sure you share the sound. My shared screen. This is our OID, Office of Inclusive Design, doc about Zoom accessibility, and which you can get if you email us at ASUW OID. And so some of the screen sharing best practices are, when sharing your screen or using the whiteboard function of Zoom, you want to make sure you're describing what's on the screen. So for example, what's showing on the screen is a Word doc of Zoom accessibility practices. You can see the word editing functions up on the top, and it's opened in Chrome. So like right now there isn't really an image. But since I have text, I'm going to read the text out loud. So if students are visually impaired or blind, they know what is on the screen. And you have an image, especially if there's an image, you want to give a detailed image description, or if it's just text, make sure you're reading all the text. Obviously, you don't have to read things like, Word, file, home, insert, layout. That part isn't important, but what you're sharing with the students or other participants in your group, you want to make sure is read out loud. Also, another way to make sure accessibility about this is if you're sharing a document, send that to your participants ahead of time. This way, participants can open it up on their own and make it as accessible as they need. I often do this myself. It's a lot easier to convert a document ahead of time. So if you're going to be sharing a presentation or a document, make sure that you send that out for students beforehand. Another thing you want to make sure you're doing is using the chat feature. So some participants may be in a noisy or crowded environment, and that may prevent them from speaking during the meeting. Students may also be uncomfortable with speaking during the meeting. So giving them the chat option, students who may have verbal or hearing disabilities, making sure that they can use the chat feature. And it just makes people feel more comfortable to be able to use that. And in terms of breakout room accessibility, breakout rooms are kind of tricky when it comes to accessibility. So when you're creating breakout rooms, make sure that you give students the option to use them. So that's really important. Also, if a student has an ASL or other language interpreter, make sure you put them in the same breakout room as that student, so that they can communicate with the others in their breakout room. So I'll stop sharing my screen and give an example of, so here we have breakout rooms. So you can assign them manually. You can also let participants choose their rooms. It's another way, allowing students to choose their room is important. So I'm going to X out of the breakout rooms and return to my shared screen. So recording meetings, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is really important. You know, even if your meeting isn't asynchronous, you want to make sure you record all of the content. You know, not only for students who can't make it to the event, you know, even if you think everyone's going to make it, emergencies can always come up. But you know, it's so easy to just miss a piece of information. And so since we have the ability to record, it's really important that we do this so that we can all go back and listen and make sure we have everything important in the meeting. And, you know, record function is just by the, you know, by the participants in the chat. I think we all have been on Zoom long enough to, you know recording practices. And so it's important that we record those and we save those. And also when you have an automatic transcript, that will also save to your Zoom cloud. So after you've done your recording, make sure you send it to all the participants in addition with the transcript so that they can look back and use that. So when using the polling features of Zoom, you want to make sure that's also accessible to all participants. So make sure you let everybody know before you're going to use a poll. So participants joining by phone will not be able to use accessible technology for polls. So be sure to remind individuals to join by computer if you're going to be launching a poll. And if people aren't able to do that, maybe don't use a poll for that meeting. So, and make sure your polls are up long enough for everyone to answer with ample time. So, you know, make sure at least a few minutes, even if it's, you know, a basic question or something like that. People need time to decide, you know, make sure everybody's there and can have time to answer. So, and then captioning, as you guys may have noticed, I've turned on the automatic captioning here. This is really important, not only for deaf, hard of hearing individuals, but captions are also just better for some people learn better through, are more visual learners, learn better through reading than listening. So to turn on automatic captions, I did at the beginning of the meeting, you are going to, you know, it's right between record and live and breakout rooms. So you click on the live transcript button. There's a couple options. The easiest one is just enable the live transcript. Something to know about this is that it's not always perfectly accurate. You know, kind of like YouTube live captions. So make sure you speak clearly, you enunciate your words. In terms of acronyms, Zoom doesn't always catch those. So I would say the first time you use an acronym, explain what it is. So for example, OID stands for Office of Inclusive Design. That way, you know, you have it in the transcript so students can always go back and say, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about when they say that. So, or if you're using a acronym, I would say spell out the letters instead of saying, for example, OID instead of OID. That way it's more likely that students will be able to get that. You can also ask a participant to type if somebody's willing to do that. That's another great way. But you know, it's kind of hard to, not everybody's a super fast. You don't always have that person who's a speed typer. So, you know, the easiest way to just do the live transcription. You can also type yourself if you're a fast typer and you feel up to that. So there's several options. Easiest one is live transcript, but again, if you're recording your meeting, it should also be saved on your cloud. So yeah, so that's kind of the basics of making sure your Zoom meetings are accessible. And yeah, if you have more questions, you can contact us, the ASU Dub Office of Inclusive Design. And thank you for listening.